advantages famous.
Let me go!
We buzz up to Seattle to see how this tech-heavy town unwinds. History teacher turned sci-fi fantasy novelist CJ Cherryh. Plus, could Prey be the next X-Files?
I don't think Tom Daniels is human.
Prepare. Stand by. The Buzz.
Movies. Personalities.
Sci-Fi. FX.
Behind the scenes.
Cutting edge. Get ready.
Sci-Fi Buzz. Hey everybody, welcome to Sci-Fi Buzz. Mike Cherryh here with the buzz from the kingdoms of science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Starting off the show with some big news from our friends over at the X-Files. Watch for the February 8th episode. It was co-written by executive producer Chris Carter and Stephen King. Yes, this is the first script that Stephen King has written for episodic TV. So watch the X-Files February the 8th. Here's some more Buzz news.
Monster marketing makes headlines on this week's Buzz News. Sony Pictures' top secret marketing plans for Godzilla has industry insiders biting their tails in anticipation. The studio is taking the very unusual tactic of not revealing the look of their redesigned Godzilla before the film's premiere. The companies making toys and other products have signed secrecy agreements, and Sony won't unveil any of the merchandise until Godzilla's first midnight screenings. Though many think the strategy risky, Sony hopes to make the merchandise as big an event as the picture itself.
He is breeding an alien species.
The alien monster is also venturing into new markets, this time as a 3D Korean theme park attraction. Landmark Entertainment, who made the Jurassic Park ride at Universal Studios and the Star Trek experience in Vegas, has teamed with 20th Century Fox to create the new ride. The largest, costliest, and most complicated theme park ride ever, Aliens 3D, opens at the Everland Park in South Korea late next year. And that's the latest buzz.
Here's another item from the world of sci-fi TV. The new ABC series Prey, which premiered last week, we think it's worth a look. In fact, here's a behind-the-scenes visit.
He's coming.
The TV networks are scrambling to repeat the success of The X-Files with another series about bizarre phenomena. ABC's entry in the competition is Prey.
ABC was looking for science, fact-based product. And so instead of it's aliens who have come to Earth, they wanted a show that could be scary, but could also be made scarier by the fact that it could really happen.
The premise of Prey is that global warming has caused a new breed of humans to evolve who are infiltrating the population. They may look just like us, but they are brainier and bent on wiping us out.
It's not that far removed from possibility. Anything alive is changing at any given time. This is just acknowledging that something could have changed under certain circumstances to that point, and we're going to be fighting over the same resources, and that would be survival of the fittest. Anne told me what she knew.
ABC undoubtedly hopes that bringing aboard Larry Drake with his long resume of horror and fantasy roles will help lure the target audience. And what better way to create an X-Files type show than to hire a former producer of the X-Files, Charlie Craig.
In looking at the X-Files, the best experience I could take from there is a lesson I've been learning sort of my whole career, which is that entertainment comes first and justification and logic can necessarily come second.
The world they know isn't going to exist for much longer.
But while the series has a former X-Files producer and aims to attract the X-Files audience, the people who make the show don't want you to get the impression that it's an X-Files knockoff.
I don't think this is a direct imitation. If that's the question you're asking, no, I don't think that may be the benchmark, that may be some reference point. But I still think it's apples and oranges. I certainly hope it is. Because, as people would say, been there, done that, so why would they tune into us?
Don't you think maybe the rest of your questions can wait till tomorrow? Looks like Dr. Parker's been through enough for one day.
The Prey cast and creative team are also reluctant to use the H word to describe the program.
I wouldn't really call this a horror show. When I was a kid, I went to horror movies.
But I wasn't that big a fan of the horror genre. I mean, that was more about shock value, where this hopefully inspires someone to think about what could happen, you know? And that's fascinating to me, as opposed to 3 beats and then we scare you.
When you've got a new series, you're naturally leery about labeling it or comparing it to other shows for fear of limiting the potential audience. But we did find one cast member who was willing to go out on a limb and draw parallels between Prey and other series.
There's like elements of Star Trek in it, actually. A lot of the characters, a lot of the dilemmas are very similar because you have perspectives from very different people.
Please provide a name for the new species.
There's elements of like Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible sort of got into some sort of bending the reality of what was possible or theoretical, which is very similar to this show.
If it is to succeed, Prey must prove to be distinctive, because primetime TV works just like the show's Darwinian premise. It's survival of the fittest. Next, Vegas may be the gaming capital, but Seattle is the game capital. And prolific sci-fi fantasy writer CJ Cherryh.
Does this place look familiar? Yep, it's Disneyland. Tomorrowland, to be specific, from the 50s and 60s. Well, folks, Tomorrowland is history. You see, Disneyland is renovating the once futuristic section of the park to make it more futuristic. So come spring, Tomorrowland will reopen with whirling orbs and speeding starships overhead and some new high-tech attractions. But it will keep the always popular Space Mountain and Star Tours. That's coming this spring to Disneyland in Southern California. Now, if you're lucky enough to live in Seattle, you can play games right in the heart of town. How do I know that? Well, I went to Seattle to check out the fun Seattle style.
On your marks, get set, go.
Sci-Fi Buzz is in Seattle, a technology-heavy town full of Boeing engineers and Microsoft programmers. How do people relax here after a high-tech workday? Well, we found several trying to build a perfect burger at Entros, a 4-year-old games nightclub.
Our customers are typically high-tech people. They're 25 to 45. They spend the bulk of their days trading email, trading voicemail, trading faxes, and they're starved for organic, relevant, social, engaging fun. And that's what we offer here.
If teams aren't trying to build the perfect burger, they're working in pairs in a high-tech version of Blind Man's Bluff. There are many other games here as well, and the food is terrific. Hate to eat and run, but more games await us near the University of Washington.
Here in the university section of Seattle, there's a place called Wizards of the Coast. Those are the folks that created Magic: The Gathering. And now they've opened a game center inside this building, but it's more than just an arcade. Let me show you around.
Their new game center offers more than 250 social, electronic, and computer interactive games for Seattle gamers. On the first floor, past their traditional arcade games, are the BattleTech pods. Here, flight-suited staffers put you into virtual reality simulators, and you guide tanks across hostile terrain. Downstairs, past the Hurloon Minotaur, we discovered the War Room, where high-end computer gaming is in progress.
Now, Steve, you call this the War Room. I mean, is war going to break out at some point, or what's the story?
Well, there's going to be war going on in every system in here. All the newest and the latest games, from Warcraft 2 to Diablo to Doom and that sort of Quake.
And then to the Great Hall, where Magic: The Gathering and other card and board games are played.
We're into social interactive games, meaning even computer games side by side, talking to each other. The computer games over there, as well as any other type of game. It's really important to us to have people interacting rather than just looking into a TV screen and being kind of like a zombie.
To cap off our Emerald City visit, it's downtown to GameWorks, the co-creation of Steven Spielberg's DreamWorks, Sega, and Universal Studios. This is Seattle's version of visiting Disneyland. At GameWorks, the intensity is high because screens are big, the effects are gripping, and many simulators involve your whole body. You can't get this experience on a computer. GameWorks operates morning, noon, and night with up to 10,000 people a day stopping by.
This is great. This game was designed by Steven Spielberg. It's called Vertical Reality. This is how it's played. There's a 2.5-story building here. It's filled with a criminal element. Terrorists are in this building. They're shooting back at me. I'm shooting at them. The more I succeed, the higher I go. I'm doing pretty well right now. Now, if they start hitting me with bullets, which they're doing right now, I start going down. If they hit me enough, I fall very fast. In fact, every one of these games of vertical reality ends with a 2.5-story drop that's very fast. This is very cool.
Well, Seattle may be full of propeller heads,
Whoa!
but in visiting 3 of the city's massive playrooms, I can report that people up here sure know how to have fun.
This is Jeff Schaefer from Apple Valley, and I'd like to recommend Harlan Ellison's City on the Edge of Forever. This is an excellent book. It's the actual screenplay of one of the original Star Trek episodes, probably the one that's considered the best of the original episodes ever done. It's a chance to see what could have been done with it and what was actually done with it. Harlan Ellison's fiction is excellent, but his commentary on his own life is even better.
CJ Cherryh ranks as one of science fiction's most prolific authors. Over the past 2 decades, she has published over 50 books. Her extensive business travels provide a wealth of material for her novels.
I can get the inspiration from a story out of almost anything I look at. I can look at, for instance, a stream cut, and I can look at the geology of the place and start to imagine what strata I'm seeing. Oh, that's Permian. What was this place then? This must have been a clay bank. What went on here? Ideas are around you all the time.
CJ's career began in 1976 with the fantasy novel Gate of Ivrel. And while her fantasy books continue to attract many readers, she also has built a reputation as a top-notch sci-fi writer.
If I wrote only science fiction or only fantasy, I think I could possibly bog down and start working on the same story over and over, and I don't like to do that. I need to do a total mental shift of gears and operate in different territory.
And making that mental shift is not always easy, even for an experienced writer like Cherryh. After completing the sci-fi adventure Rim Runners, she attempted to begin her next fantasy book.
I could not straighten my language out. I just could not shift gears. And as luck would have it, I had an appointment to be in Scotland. And I drove out into the Scottish countryside, inhaled the air, and felt my blood pressure drop about 10 points. And my language shifted at that point. I could do it.
Quite a stack here, Tim. Good to see you.
Prior to becoming a best-selling author, CJ taught ancient history in Oklahoma City public schools. Her extensive knowledge of early civilizations often provide a launching point for the make-believe worlds in her books.
Fantasy, in a way, is what you do when you try to reconstruct a Greek village and their gods and their beliefs. Science fiction is much more like dealing with the Roman Empire. I also studied physics on my own. Studied a lot of things that I didn't have time to take in school. So I try to be right about the science.
For over 20 years now, Cherryh's books have enthralled readers. But what would make this hardworking author happy? Well, how about a couple of days off?
Somebody called me up, you know, one of those, you want a plane trip to whatever. I said, I travel too much. What you could give me is 2 days at home. And they just kind of got confused and hung up.
Sci-Fi Buzz.
The rags to riches story of the Mummy and our Buzz Best Bets after these glimpses into the infinite.
Now, I love my science fiction, but I'm more of a classics kind of guy. For What's Now? These guys are plugged in. It's John and Steve. Hi, John and Steve.
Hey. Hey, what do you get when you take stormtroopers and TV show Cops and three guys with too much time? You get Troops, which is a great parody video.
It's totally funny. It's like these cop guys that are, they're stormtroopers, but they're going around hassling Jawas and stuff like that.
Right. Kevin Rubio, Shant Jordan, and Pat Perez put this thing together, and they sent it all over the place, and it's hysterical.
Supposedly, George Lucas has seen it, loves it, thought it was hysterical, but you can't buy it. You can't get it anywhere. You can get it, but you can't buy it.
If you go to theforce.net or Film Threat Online, you can get information on how to get your own copy.
It is funny, but are you sure George Lucas said it's okay for us to run it here on the Buzz?
Well, Kevin Rubio said we could show a little bit of it, so we're just showing a little bit of it, you know.
You two boys won't be here next week, will you?
Star Kid and Star Trek make this week's Buzz Best Bets.
How am I supposed to eat this thing?
Insert nourishment into food processing receptacle.
If you're looking for a fun sci-fi adventure you can take the whole family to, you might want to check out the new movie Star Kid from Trimark Pictures. The film features Jurassic Park star Joseph Mazzello as an awkward 7th grader who discovers a 7-foot-tall cyber suit from outer space. And when the kid tries the suit on, he's not only imbued with superpowers, he also discovers that the suit has a mind of its own, and that a group of evil aliens desperately want it back. Cool effects and a funny script keep the action rolling along. For those of you who prefer your sci-fi a bit quieter, there's Star Trek: The Next Generation, The Continuing Mission. This is a beautifully put together 10th anniversary tribute book with an introduction from series producer Rick Berman. Containing hundreds of photographs and illustrations, The Continuing Mission gives readers many insights into the development, casting, and design of the series that reinvigorated the Star Trek franchise. And those are this week's Buzz Best Bets. Perhaps the most terrifying moment in The Mummy, and all the Mummy sequels, and all horror movies for that matter, is this one, when a heretofore sane archaeologist is instantly transformed into a madman. It's a logical reaction for someone who has just witnessed the rebirth of a 3,000-year-old corpse, but that makes it no less chilling.
He went for a little walk. You should have seen his face.
Moments like this elevate mere movies to masterpieces. They made 1932's The Mummy the fourth ghoul in Universal's horror crown after Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman.
Permit me to present you with the most sensational find since that of Tutankhamun.
The Mummy was inspired by the discovery of the tomb of the 19-year-old Egyptian king Tutankhamun in the early 1920s. When several members of that expedition died, most of natural causes, the yellow press claimed they were victims of an ancient curse.
No one has entered this door since the priests of the royal necropolis sealed it.
Those who plunder the booty of Egypt's royal dead must die. That theme runs throughout all 5 Mummy films. There's also a romantic current as the lonesome mummy tries to reunite with his beloved dead virgin princess.
If I could get my hands on you, I'd break your dried flesh to pieces.
Boris Karloff gives a moving yet reserved performance as the mummy, the mysterious Imhotep. Except during his petrifying rebirth, Karloff is never seen in his mummified state. This film's eerie terror relies not on grotesque shockers, but the grim mood.
Clarice never really died.
The Mummy sequels of the 1940s take a more by-the-numbers approach to the above scenario. In The Mummy's Hand, Tom Tyler stars as the lovesick and vengeful mummy. Now called Karas and silenced by having had his tongue ripped out by the pharaoh, the mummy is revived by the forbidden Tana leaves.
Let me go!
Horror films became more action-oriented in the 40s, featuring non-communicative zombie-like monsters. Karas was cut from this cloth. After his fiery demise in The Mummy's Hand, Karas returned to life in even worse shape for 3 more sequels. In the mummy's tomb, the monster is left with only one good eye, a crippled arm, and an undignified limp.
I'll take her back, Paris. Together we'll go to Arkham. The three of us, I swear it.
Lon Chaney Jr. played the mummy in the last 3 films. Karras was one of his least favorite characters. The restrictive makeup and repetitious plots posed few challenges for the actor. And he had to spend much too much time with makeup master Jack Pierce, a man Chaney was known to despise.
You cannot stay here another hour. In a room beneath the chapel, I found the bodies of freshly murdered men.
But together, Chaney, Pierce, Tom Tyler, and Boris Karloff created a lasting icon of popular culture. With or without Tana leaves, the mummy will no doubt live on.
This was a big week for Babylon 5 fans as the 5th and supposedly last season of the show started. Actress Tracy Scoggins joined the show. You might remember her visit here to the Buzz. That was fun. I'm telling you this, I have never seen a better looking space station commander and one that was more in shape. You might not be able to tell that underneath Tracy's drab uniform here that she is one buff woman. Trust me, I know. I've seen her exercise videos. Yes, she has a series of those videos out, and we have them around the Buzz here somewhere. Kurt, do you have those videos? Sure he does. Anyway, she's in great shape. She'll be able to take care of the Narn, the Minbari, and even the humans that come her way on B5. Watch for that. And watch for the Buzz next week.
No one has ever tried to escape Alpha 4 until now. See the Sci-Fi Channel original movie, Time Lock, tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. Coming up, it's the encore presentation of Earth 2, the original 2-hour premiere, next.